Tommy, can you hear me now? Ooh.
Yes.
Okay. I had to call back in. I don't know what happened, but I couldn't hear you. I don't think you could hear me. So we may have a little downtime right there. We had several people call in at once. And I guess I had 4 or 5 people showing to talk. And so, folks, if you can hear me and you want to be part of the show, just call back in. I'm sorry. I guess because I haven't been on a while, Tommy, I don't know what's going on, or if my computer's got to get reclassified into, the system or what. But I called back in on my phone, and I'm glad you can hear me. Anyway, so back to Valentine's Day, and people do love different ways. I've got that we're going to do our best to help each person that calls in if they would like to. People are listening. I guess this is a good time for a Spiritual ET channel. But, Tommy, you and I both have shared a lot of life, and a lot of people don't get us. But I know one thing we have in common is sharing dimensions. Now, I've got the 5th dimensional spiritual growth because so many people relate to light workers, truth seekers, those that live on the fringe of what is and what isn't. But you, of all people, being a spiritual universal life evangelist, reverend, whatever you want to call on Sundays, we got together because we wanted to share spirituality at an event more with alien extraterrestrial UFOs. Now, we can talk about alleged alien entities or alien ET, but I'd like you to help me today at a different level, Tommy, if you can. Can you speak from a level of how we are spiritually accepting each other? Because I know that you don't necessarily agree with all Christians, but you have past lives, and that to most people is beyond the veil thinking. I don't know if I'm sure you do, but globally, I've been doing Men in Black stories and the education behind those that kept us from sharing a lot of things. And it looks like the Valentine's Day was that way as well. A man went to jail, a man for sharing things they didn't want shared on particular days due to Christianity and the Catholics versus the Christians, so to speak. But it seems like we're still fighting these wars spiritually, and I want to help people, but I want them to understand that we're all something more than just love. But love is important to me. I say love is all there is. My CD was Love One Another, and it's the glue like the ether in all realities. But I've got other people calling in and listening. But can you tell me a little bit about how you feel let's say if you and anyone, you've fallen in love before, and we're going to talk about ET spirit and how it shares, I would think, what you and I do when we're out of body. But you know how they're saying that we are now, the space that you and I live in, this whole planet has evolved into another dimensional way of being, which a lot of people can feel, that spiritually they've changed or something has changed. And a lot of people in world religions believe the world's coming to an end or this is the last days. But I want to just talk about what you and I do for a moment, and then people will be getting to you. We had a little late start in sharing your ideas of Valentine's Day, or if you want to share something or have us do a mini reading. But Tommy, these run towards the psychic mini readings. But share with me, you've been out of body. You understand the dimensions that I've always tried to get you to help me with of being God realized. But let's talk about love. Now, I say it's an ether that holds us together. But is there something positive you can make of today with how we're reacting when everything's changing? The way that they're changing the world and the consciousness to be in the 5th dimension. They're saying we've raised, or we are in the process. Mother Earth is changing, and that's with, all the earthquakes and the ice age and all that. But leaving out, tell me about you. Can you stay on that topic of your dimensional self? Or how would you say your soul? I say we're all ET spirits. But tell them as a man, what do you think?
For me, the word ET spirits kind of tries to classify something that was a little more abstract than what soul is. Soul is individual, first off. It has its own reality. It doesn't depend on anything else. It doesn't need anything else. It needs awareness when it comes into the lower worlds, which is where we are, planet Earth, where soul goes through a learning period. Whether it learns anything or not is up to that soul, but doesn't learn anything, then it goes into the word reincarnation, and it has to keep reincarnating until it starts to. And when it starts to learn awareness, it can learn to leave this planet. The starting step is astral projections, remote viewing, which is in any high level, but then it's soul travel and astral travel. But at those points, soul becomes aware. It has nothing to do with love at that moment or in that time frame. When soul comes into this reality, it's put in a new space where it revolves around working with other souls, which entails it doesn't require the word love, even though we want it to. It requires the word compassion. And both of those words were non-existent for a long period of time through history. From the first alien races that came here after Atlantis was destroyed, all the races and different tribal people that were here, love was not an actual word. It didn't mean anything to anybody. It was a word that was created many years later, and I would say it was actually created when Jesus was walking the planet. And why do I say that? Because if you trace every tribal family, people, women were never accepted as something equal or the same. And when we use the word love, we try to make it sound like it's two people that care and appreciate each other the same. So if you go to the Egyptians, the Mayan, the Aztecs, Sumerians, any race, it wasn't like they loved the women. I could say they loved their children, boys, more than they did their women. And that the facts are the way they abused women all through history at every level. Jesus was the first person, and I'm going to just say it from my truth, from my experience, from even being there in that time frame, was when Jesus showed compassion to Mary Magdalene. And then he married her, but that's not in the Bible. But at that point, they can see how he related to her. And that was when love actually became an actual word. Accepting a person and dealing with them and giving everything to that person. Mary Magdalene had every ability that Jesus had, but he had to teach her that. He didn't teach all his disciples that even. So he had this connection which all his disciples could see. And in that time frame, all Jesus' followers were married. And, I mean, I don't know why the Pope kind of went back into the male ego thing and said priesthood can't get married, which is a ridiculous idea, considering all Jesus' disciples were. Now, when Jesus talked to his disciples, when the end times were coming, for him anyway, he said, leave your families, leave your children, leave everybody. But there was reasons for that, and it had to do with an abstract, greater idea of what love was. And for people in that time frame, it was hard for them to accept anything, even the word love, even the word God. So, I mean, he couldn't use those words to those people even. He had to use the word Father. I mean, they could understand Father, but they couldn't understand the word God. The Egyptians and Mayan played with deities and aliens. They had no conception of a real God. And it was man through the Bible.
It says compassion, according to the internet, folks. We use cyberspace. Love and compassion, but it says compassion was brought up in the 1300s. Compassionate love describes attitudes towards service for others, motivated by desire for the good of the other, caring and value. But it says in Galatians that it was used, so that's in the Bible. So, folks, the Greek, Latin, and Hebrew, and then it became, those were the original words. Of course, we know we've got the Dead Sea Scrolls and that written in Sanskrit, but we go by the King James Version for those of you that follow what we're doing today on Sunday, and it being Valentine's Day, is love and compassion, sort of sympathy and how it goes together. And before the mechanical problems, I discussed the actual Valentine's Day today. But we want to make sure that you understand what we're doing with your soul and spirit. And Tommy is good at that in giving us explanation. But love and compassion, we're going to talk about that, and then dimensional travel. But it says the first records of the word compassion came from the 1300s. Latin meaning fellow feeling, or from compate, to suffer with, compassion and sympathy. Now that's according to CompassionDictionary.com. So Jesus landed, it says, and saw a crowd. He had compassion on them and healed their sick, and a large crowd from the town was with her. When the Lord saw her, his heart went out, and he said, "Don't cry." Then he went up and touched the bier, B-I-E-R, they were carrying him on. The bearer stood still. Now, what does that mean? So that's what you're discussing. Is you do talk about the Bible an awful lot, and this is according to the Holy Spirit of the epistle to the Galatians. But the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience. So apparently he did say some things that the Bible records.
Well, here's the thing. Man wrote every word Jesus was supposed to have said. Man was still ignorant at that time as far as love goes. So even 100 years later, women were still not accepted the same. And that's why Mary Magdalene was never put into the Bible as anything important.
Well, that was due to King James, you think, or that go back to Constantinople and King Constantine?
It goes back to men never respected women, as they still don't today. Most men do not respect all women. They respect the women that they're supposed to be dating or married to for a period of time, and usually that fades away. The whole concept of love is a lot more complicated than anybody wants to give it credit or even energy to feed into it. Because when we say compassion, well, compassion goes along with it. But when you form a relationship and you're falling in love, you have to work a lot of things out so that the compassion can grow. Because if compassion doesn't grow, it turns into anger. So between the two words, love and compassion, if you don't have both working together, one will destroy the other. You could say you love a person all you want, but if you're desiring somebody else or you desire something different, it slowly deteriorates the compassion as far as caring for the other person. If you love the person in this reality, in this level of awareness, you don't hurt the person you love.
Well,
in
people
reality,
do it all
most
the time,
people do.
And I know a lot of people that are married right now.
Truly don't love the other person. Fighting to one level is one thing, but when a husband or a boyfriend leaves and cheats and separates, that's totally separating from the contract of being in love with somebody. So, I mean, in the Jewish religion, you can't get remarried. I mean, you're married to a woman. I mean, the whole concept of that, it's changed to the point where some countries a man could have a daughter could have 3 husbands and things like that, or 3 wives or 4 wives. I mean, perception is based on, in the United States, on man's perception inside the United States. It's not based on everybody else's religion and way of life.